On today's show, Drake Powell and Jagor Demin of the Nets' lone bright spots during a blowout loss to the Knicks at Madison Square Garden. I'll tell you why fans should be encouraged by the rookie duo's performance of late right now.
You are Locked On Nets, your daily Brooklyn Nets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to the Locked On Nets podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the number one sports podcast network. It's your team, the Brooklyn Nets, every single day. I'm Erik Slater, Brooklyn Nets beat reporter for ClutchPoints.com. Thank you for making me your first listen of the day. The show is 100% free on all those great platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And on today's episode, the Nets are demolished by the Knicks, 134-98 at Madison Square Garden, and yet Brooklyn fans can come away excited by the rookie performances of Drake Powell and Jagor Demin, and I'm going to focus on those two in this episode, but briefly just touching on the game, which was outside of those rookies. Pretty forgettable for this Nets team. They were predictably overmatched by this Knicks offense and really had no answers defensively. The Knicks shot 55% from the field, 46% from three in this one. They won the fast break points battle 18-4, and the second chance points battle 25-11. And the Nets were really bullied down low in this game, and that was exemplified by the fact that the Knicks outscored them 58-36 in points in the paint. And this is a game after the Nets allowed 80 points in the paint to this Detroit Pistons team. And Jordi Fernandez went to a revamped starting lineup, obviously starting in that Indiana Pacers win where they had a new front line of Michael Porter Jr., Noah Clowney, and Nick Claxton. And it looked good in that Pacers game against a depleted skeleton crew Indiana squad. But since then, it's looked really bad, especially defensively in these last couple of games. You know, Michael Porter Jr., he did a good job leading the Nets. He was more engaged, more active during that Pacers win. And since then, it's reverted back to, you know, obviously taking a lot of bad shots, which he always does, but makes a lot of them. But defensively, it's just atrocious. The effort's bad. The body language is bad. He's out of position a lot, and he's really just playing with no effort or inspiration outside of that Indiana game, which I talked about after that. But then you look at beyond that in that front line, Noah Clowney and Nick Claxton, these two were just pretty much bullied down low by this Knicks team. And this is, you know, not that surprising because Nick Claxton and Noah Clowney are two guys where if you're playing a team that has some beef, has some physicality, wants to pound the ball down low, as the Knicks do with Karl Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson, they're going to struggle. I mean, Nick Claxton has his bright spots. He's had a really good stretch leading up to this, as has Noah Clowney offensively. But defensively, those are two guys that if you move forward with them, you know, in the lineup, they can play more physically, and I think they can do better than they did tonight. But overall, they're going to be overmatched because they're not that physical. They're obviously very slight, and they're just going to get bullied. And this is something outside of Day'Ron Sharpe, we've seen with these Sean Marks front courts, he does not like a lot of, size or bulk down there. He goes more for these slighter, more fluid, more mobile guys. And sometimes that's good and a positive. And other times it's really frustrating because the Nets just get bullied down low. And we've seen that throughout Nick Claxton's career. And now Noah Clowney, he's been really good offensively in some games leading up to this, but defensively, he hasn't really brought it or made an impact. And Jordi Fernandez has been very vocal about that. And this was a pretty ugly defensive performance in terms of what the Nets got in the front court. But don't want to bore you guys too much with the Nets' bad defense because I don't see that really changing anytime soon. But we did get really good performances, I think, in this one from Drake Powell and Jagor Demin, particularly Powell, who I'm going to focus on in this first segment. You look at what Drake did in this game. He had 15 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 turnovers, 5 of 8 from the field, and 3 of 3 from 3 in 22 minutes. And Powell was, this guy, obviously, we didn't see him the whole summer. He missed most of the offseason with the knee injury. Then he comes back, and in the Nets season opener, he turns his ankle. He misses some games, comes back in that Philadelphia 76ers loss, looks encouraging, turns his ankle again. But he, had a couple of games off. He comes back now, and he's put together back-to-back encouraging performances. And this one, I think Nets fans should be particularly excited about this one because, the reason for that being Drake, the selling on him going into the draft and since the Nets picked him was obviously his defense. He's this elite athlete, high motor, high IQ defender, and that's great. You see how that's going to play at the NBA level. But there were major questions about his ability to survive offensively in the NBA because, he shot well from three on low volume at North Carolina. He was good in transition as a play finisher using his athleticism, but he did virtually nothing on the ball in the half-court offense last season. He posted a 13.8 usage rate last season. No wing had ever been drafted with a usage rate that low during his pre-draft season. Drake was the first. And I asked him about, his role at North Carolina last season, if he felt like there were things that he didn't get an opportunity to do, and he's, had these skills. And, I asked him about it after the Knicks game. He kind of somewhat took the high road. He said, I was asked to play a role at North Carolina and asked to excel in that role, and I feel like I did. And, I got drafted as a result. But he said he felt like he's always been confident in his ability to do some of these things on the ball. And clearly he is. I mean, you look at, what he did in this Knicks game, it was encouraging. But I was very concerned, given the lack of usage at North Carolina, about what Drake would look like in a half-court NBA offense long-term, but especially during his rookie season. Because to excel in today's NBA, you can't just be like a spot-up shooter strictly, especially if you aren't an elite movement shooter, which Drake isn't. But regardless, you need to be able to do other things. You need to be able to play on the ball. You need to be able to play on the second side, do some pick-and-roll ball handling, create off-script, do things off the dribble. The NBA is so deep, so versatile. You need, guys pretty much 1 through 5 to be able to do some of those things. So, to see what Drake did today against this Knicks team at MSG was relatively surprising, and it was pretty reassuring. I said 15 points. He was 5 of 8 from the field, 3 of 3 from 3, and he was doing some things on the ball that, frankly, I was just not expecting. I said, 3 of 3 from 3. 2 of those were off the dribble. One was a pull-up, headsy pull-up from the top of the key late in the shot clock, which he splashed in Mikal Bridges' face. And then he hit a step-back 3 off the dribble to end the third quarter in isolation. I definitely was not expecting that. And he looked getting downhill. He got downhill a few times off zoom actions, off of his own dribble. He finished at the rim, so he did that. He made some nice pick-and-roll reads on the ball to find shooters, which he did in the Detroit loss and this loss. He was handling the ball on the ball in the pick and roll because the Nets just are missing Cam Thomas. They have such a lack of ball handling and shot creation, and Drake's looked pretty good in it, creating for himself and also making some regimented pick and roll reads. I think that all of that has looked really encouraging from Drake, and I was not really expecting it. And then outside of that, we saw a little swagger and a little passion from Drake during this Knicks game. I said that he hit a step back 3 to end the third quarter in isolation. And Spike Lee was actually talking shit to him right before that. And then he stepped back and hit that 3 in ISO to end the third. And he hit Spike Lee with his celly. It was kind of the, the D'Angelo Russell, ice in my veins celly, which was pretty hilarious. I laughed out loud when I saw it because the 3 was to cut the Knicks lead to 31. So that's funny. And some people will make fun of it, but I liked it. I mean, obviously it's ridiculous when you're cutting a lead to a deficit to 31, but this Nets team was completely dead outside of that. They were talking shit to Drake and he gave it right back to him. And he's a rookie playing his first game in Madison Square Garden. To do that, to hit that shot, to have a little swagger, have a little passion and enthusiasm about it. I like that a lot. And I think that shows a little something with Drake, a little bit of, you got some, what down in your pants to you, that you'll be able to go hard back at somebody and match them in that moment, which is something that we frankly didn't see from any other Nets players during this game, really. So that was nice to see. And, the overall offensive impact that Drake showed in this game and the offensive versatility, look, this game, the Detroit game, it's 2 games. It's obviously a very small sample size, but just to see Drake be able to do this stuff in an NBA setting against 2 teams that are going to be playoff teams, I think that is a resounding positive. And there's miles and miles more to go. But if he can do some of this stuff and you have that platform to kind of build forward and build off of, if you couple that on the offensive end with his defensive ability, which is going to be his major strength, it's going to make for an impactful player, in my opinion. Because you look at the defensive end of the floor, and Drake is still going to have a long way to go there. He's a rookie. There's going to be a lot more room to grow, a lot more room to build his body, understand defensive rotations more, understand how to guard these, top players. He's gotten good experience in it in these last 2 games going against Cade Cunningham and then Jalen Brunson. But you just look at the way he moves. Like, you ask Jordy Fernandez about him, and Jordy Fernandez keeps bringing it up. He's just different the way that he moves. Like, you look at him, he's 6'5", 7-foot wingspan. We obviously know all the athletic testing results, which are off the charts, but he is just a fluid mover. He's loose and oily in the hips. He can flip his hips, change direction. He covers a lot of ground with his stride length, with his wingspan length, being able to get in passing lanes, contest shots. Like, I just think that he's going to be a high-level defensive player, and if he can have this stuff offensively that a lot of people doubted, and you have kind of a baseline of things to grow forward, I think that it's a really encouraging start from Drake Powell overall, trying to quell some of the concerns or ease some of the weaknesses that he had, or perceived weaknesses that he had in North Carolina. I think that this is about as good as you could have hoped for from Drake Powell out of the gate. So really positive stuff from him there. We also had Jagor Demin, who started his second straight game and second game of his career during this Knicks loss, and put together what I thought was another encouraging performance. So what do we see from Egor, and what should fans be looking for moving forward? I'll get into all that when I continue Locked On Nets after a quick break. Your ambition just met its match with Robinhood. You play for the win, not just on game day, every day. Locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto, all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood's Legend Advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself. Expect more from your money too. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. Basketball season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets, fast, easy, and stress-free. Guys, you can use Game Time to grab seats for any NBA game, and it couldn't be simpler. You'll have great seats in minutes. I love that what you see is what you pay. No hidden fees at checkouts. Plus, you can see exactly what your seat view looks like before you buy the tickets with their in-app seat view feature. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Coming back from the break on today's Locked On Nets episode, talk about the Nets' rookie performances during a blowout loss to Madison Square Garden, and want to get to Jagor Demin now, who I think put together another solid performance during his second start in the NBA. Jagor had 10 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 turnovers, was 4 of 6 from the field, and 2 of 4 from 3 in this one in 25 minutes. And I think you're just seeing Jagor get more comfortable. Like, he's getting added on-ball reps now. And, I said when Cam Thomas went out with his hamstring injury, obviously there were going to be negatives. It's going to look really ugly offensively sometimes, which it did in this game. But there are also going to be positives. And one of those are more guys getting more opportunities. And the number one guy in that regard who fans and anybody is going to look towards is Jagor Demin, who's getting a lot more on-ball reps with Cam Thomas, out and not dominating the ball in this offense. And overall, you just see Egor, I feel like, gaining more comfort with each pick and roll rep. We saw it against the Pistons. He got downhill a few times. He scored going to the basket. He hit some shots. He was able to, you had 7 assists in that game. He was able to make a lot of reads and create for others. And in this game, I think you saw a lot of the same stuff. You saw him creating for others, but more encouragingly, you saw some 3-level scoring from Egor in this game, which is something we obviously didn't see. We didn't even see 2-level scoring. We saw just 3-point shooting through his first, 5-6 games, however long he didn't attempt a 2-point field goal for. And he's starting with added pick and roll reps, starting to get downhill more, starting to press the issue a little bit more, get a little bit more aggressive. And in this game, we saw Egor come off the pick and roll, get downhill, score at the rim, which was nice to see. We saw another rep where he got downhill. He kind of stopped in the paint, spun around, and hit like a turnaround fadeaway mid-range jumper that was really smooth. And then right after that, he came off a screen with Mitchell Robinson and drop, and he pulled up from deep and hit a 3. So that like 3-level scoring flashes, like it's still not, a finished product. There's still a long way to go, but seeing him do some of that stuff and gain a little bit more comfort, it's pretty encouraging, especially against a Knicks team where they have really good like defenders at the point of attack. They have Mikal Bridges, they have Deuce McBride, they have some of these other guys, Josh Hart, whoever else you want to say, guys that can pressure. And Egor, did he do anything where I'm coming away like, wow, that was unbelievable? He was just killing it in this game. No, but I think for a rookie who's getting comfortable, and there's obviously a lot of questions and concerns about his ball handling and things along those lines and past struggles, I think that he looked pretty comfortable and he looked good initiating offense and was able to show some flashes of scoring and obviously a lot of the facilitation and creating for others like he does. So that overall, for the second straight game, second straight start of his career, I think that was really encouraging stuff. Now, there are some things with Jagor that you would like to see more of. Like I said, he got downhill. He scored at the rim on one rep. You'd like to see that. Like Egor does that one time. You're like, oh, that was nice. That was good to see. He got downhill. We got to start seeing it like multiple times a game. And it's really tough for him because he obviously has the limitations as a self-creator, just in terms of his handle and his first step and explosiveness. But I think he also has just like the limitations in terms of the physicality that he can play with because of his body. And I've talked about that several times, like just adding weight and getting his body to a level where he can kind of deliver some force and compete with some of these other NBA level, strength size guys. That is going to be huge. And that's not going to happen for a little bit. But even without that, seeing him be able to do some of the stuff that he did today, that was encouraging. And I would like to just see some more physicality from Egor. Like, this was on the scouting report with Egor going into the draft. And, after the season at BYU last year, he's very much like a finesse guy. He doesn't play with a ton of physicality with the ball in his hands, getting downhill and doing some of those things. I think some of that is due to him having a slight frame, and I think that will hopefully change when he adds more muscle and gets in the gym, eats a lot more, and some things along those lines, which is a major focus of this rookie season. But I think some of it is also just mindset, and that's something that Jagor has admitted to. Like, I know that you're slight, I know that you have this smaller frame, but I want to see you're still like he's still 6'9", 200 pounds or whatever he is. So you still want to see him like get downhill, bump some guys off their spot, like go into somebody's chest, show a little bit of physicality. If it looks ugly and you turn the ball over, it looks ugly, but I just want to see him try it. And that's the thing that we really haven't seen yet. Like, even when the brief moments that Jagor's gotten downhill in the pick and roll, you see him finishing around the rim, and it's like, finger rolls at the rim, like kind of passive, fading a little bit. Like, I just want to see him go into somebody's chest. And that's something that we haven't seen yet. We didn't see it a lot at BYU. And I just want to see Jordi Fernandez and this coaching staff just say to Egor, like, Egor, if you get downhill, if you have somebody on your hip, put a shoulder in them and bump them by, create space. You'll either get a shot off yourself, or maybe you can create for somebody else, or maybe you turn the ball over, but just try it. Like, that's something that I want to see. That's something that I want to see. Ben Saraf is really good at that. Like, we see him getting downhill, and obviously he has a little bit more of a bigger body and is a little bit more accustomed to being physical on drives. But you see when Ben gets downhill, he has the guy on his hip, he'll put the shoulder into him, or he'll create space in the mid range with, putting a shoulder into somebody and create that way. Like, I just want to see Egor do that a little bit. And that might not be in his nature, which is, in my opinion, a negative right now, but you just want to see him start to try it and start to gain a little bit of comfort doing it. And I think that hopefully, as he adds weight and adds some stuff to his body, he'll be able to do it more. But even before that, I just want to see Jordi or some of these coaches tell him to start doing that, play with a little bit more physicality, a little bit more force, and try to press the issue a little bit more, even more than he has been doing, which has been a step up. But when you attempt 0 2-point field goals through 5 games, the only way you can go in terms of aggressiveness is up. So I want to see it keep trending in that direction. But regardless, I think that this was a second straight encouraging performance from Egor. We saw him play pretty comfortably against this Knicks defense and show some scoring flashes, which I do think is going to build on moving forward. And I think that with these added reps, you're just seeing each game a little bit more comfort, trying something else, trying something new, bringing something else out of his bag. And we're only in game 10 of the regular season. So when we get to game 40, 50, hopefully you're seeing a lot more of this stuff. We also got to talk about, we had a Nets injury in this one with Day'Ron Sharpe that could potentially be significant. And also the Nets G Leaguers who opened the season in Long Island on Friday also played on Sunday. So we're going to talk about them, potential call-up that we could see due to this Day'Ron Sharpe injury. So I'll get to all that when I close out Locked On Nets after a quick break. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Coming back from the break, closing out today's Locked On Nets episode, talking about Brooklyn's loss to the Knicks at Madison Square Garden, and also 3 rookies, first-round picks, the G Leaguers now, Nolan Traore, Ben Suraf, Danny Wolf. Those guys now have 2 G League games under their belt. And we did have a significant injury. We don't know if it's significant yet, but it's a hamstring issue for Day'Ron Sharpe. He exited this Knicks game with hamstring tightness, and he did not return. So we don't know how serious that is or if he's going to miss an extended period of time. But if he does, which I think is a fair possibility because hamstrings are always very touchy, we could see Danny Wolf come up and get his first meaningful NBA minutes and play at that backup center spot behind Nick Claxton. And, you know, Danny and Ben Suraf and Nolan Traore, the Nets' other first-round picks, have played in the G League, and they have shown encouraging flashes through these first 2 games. Like, Ben Suraf had a really good game on Friday. He had 21 points. He was 7 of 13 from the field, had some really nice playmaking plays, just really looked comfortable. And then in this game on Sunday, it was Danny Wolf who had 25 points, 13 rebounds, 2 assists. He was 10 of 19 from the field. So he showed some really good stuff. And if Day'Ron's out, you know, Danny is probably going to have to come up because the Nets don't have another center option on this roster unless they want to play Noah Clowney at center, but he's clearly not suited to do that. So I would be excited to see what Danny can show if he gets called up and gets some meaningful minutes, because we saw him during a couple of those preseason games against the Phoenix Suns look like he was potentially the Nets' most NBA-ready rookie. Really looked like a dribble, pass, shoot threat. So that was, you know, nice to see, and hopefully he can carry that over if he does get some reps with the Nets. But just talking about these guys spending time in the G League, talking about what the plan is, you know, we saw, you know, Ben Suraf was in the rotation, obviously, to start the year. He started 5 games at point guard. Then he gets demoted, and he gets sent down to the G League. I thought that was kind of surprising, but it's not all that surprising. Now, look, that Nolan Traore and Danny Wolf are down there. I think the G League was always going to be used as a tool. And Jordan Fernandez has spoken about the importance of collaboration between Long Island and Brooklyn. And we saw that, and we talked about that with him before and after this Knicks game. Like, we went into the pregame interview with Jordy in this one, and he was asked about, what do you see from the guys in the G League in their first games down there, Ben, Nolan, and Danny? And he said, like, I was watching them just now, right before his pregame interview. He was watching them live, and he said that, you know, they're very connected, Brooklyn and Long Island. They're going to have collaboration between the coaching staff there and the coaching staff in Brooklyn. That's been a big thing with Jordy, kind of like a Euro type of thing, being one club, being integrated. And then he was also asked, do you have any plans to integrate Ben Suraf or any of these other guys as the rotation? And he said right now that the most important thing for all those guys is that they take advantage of those minutes. And from there, that the Nets are going to decide on what to do with them. But, you know, not just Ben. He said that the Nets are very happy with what all of those guys have done in the G League to start the year. And it does seem like they're going to spend some time down there. Now, the one caveat is with, you know, Day'Ron Sharpe with this injury potentially. Danny Wolf, I don't think the Nets wanted to call him up this early. I think they wanted to get him an extended period down there, but he may be coming up sooner rather than later, which is exciting because I think that Danny might be the most, you know, exciting and, you know, the most exciting and electric Nets rookie that they have, because he can just do the most things. Like, he's this 6'11" ball handler. He can score from all 3 levels. He can pass. He can play pick and roll as a ball handler or inverted. You know, there's just a lot of different things that he can do, and he's a very flashy player. And I think that he has a skill set that might play well at the NBA level. But outside of that, like, we saw the encouraging things that Ben did in that first G League game. I do think that Ben's a guy who may be able to come up sooner rather than later, because you look at it, like, Ben does have some NBA-ready tools in terms of the ball handling, in terms of the self-creation. He just struggled to convert in some of these games from the field. And I think that there's going to be struggles, like, at all times. And I think the shooting is something that is going to hold him back a lot because the jump shot's just very far away right now. But as this season progresses, like with CT out, the Nets are rolling with 1 point guard in Jagor Demin right now. Outside of that, the other ball handlers, you're talking about Tyrese Martin and Terrence Mann, who, you know, in this game against the Knicks were really rough. Like, Tyrese is struggling right now. He had a good game against the Pacers, but outside of that, he's been struggling. Like, I just don't know how much longer you can continue. I think it'll be for a little bit more, but I don't know how long into the season you can justify like giving a guy like Tyrese Martin all of these ball handling reps over a guy like Ben Saraf, who you just drafted in the first round. So I think that Saraf is a guy who could come up sooner rather than later as well, but I think he'll still get an extended time in the G League. But Nolan Traore is the one who's probably going to spend a pretty extended period in the G League. And Jordy Fernandez said for all these guys, he said it after they assigned the three of those guys down to Long Island, that the goal is to get 60 games. Like that's the mark, 60 games total, however many, from the G League and however many from the NBA, just 60 total games. That's something that they're aiming for with all these guys. And I think that Nolan is the guy. He's struggling right now in these first two G League games. He was 4 of 16 in the first game. He was also pretty inefficient in the second game from the field. I think he has around 8 or 9 turnovers combined in those two games. So it's a struggle for Nolan right now. We knew that. Like we saw him in the summer league, we saw him in the preseason, we saw him in some games like that Houston Rockets game. He got 21 minutes, and he's just very overmatched right now. Like him more than anybody physically, he just is going to need time to really get to a place physically where he can handle some of the ball pressure and do some of the things, and also get back to get comfortable playing with the pace that he's going to need to play with at his size, because he's not Yegor Demin at 6'9". He's not Ben Saraf at 6'6". He's going to need to play with a little bit more of an in-between game. I mean, all these guys are, but especially him. Like, he's a speed guy and he can get downhill, but we really haven't seen him use a ton of the in-between game, a ton of the craft, a ton of, going fast to slow, slow to fast, playing in the mid-range. So Nolan gaining comfort doing all of that in Long Island, I think is going to be a process. And I think we're going to see him more than any of these other guys in Long Island for an extended period. Whereas Ben might come up sooner rather than later. And Danny might come up really soon if Day'Ron Sharpe has to miss time with this hamstring injury. But that's all I got for you guys on tonight's episode of Locked On Nets. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Everything about the rookie's performance and some of the things that you can be excited about despite a blowout loss. But if you guys don't already, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Nets on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, whether Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you enjoy the content, take a second right now, smash that like button, leave a comment, leave a 5-star review. Anything you can do to engage is much appreciated. But the Nets are going to be back on Tuesday, playing the Toronto Raptors at home before they going on the road to face a few other teams. So I'll have coverage of all that and more when I'm back tomorrow talking more Brooklyn Nets basketball.